Men like you don't deserve even the air you breathe. The words echoed through the hall like a gunshot, silencing even the string quartet that had been playing softly in the background. I felt my face burn, not from the cold liquid dripping down my $3,000 Italian suit, but from the raw, naked truth those 7 words carried. No one had ever spoken to me like that. No one dared. I was Maxwell Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries at 32, the man who appeared on Forbes covers and had entire restaurants emptied with a phone call. But there I stood like an idiot, Dom Perignon champagne dripping from my chin, while a waitress in a simple uniform and brown eyes stared at me with such pure contempt, it seemed to burn my skin. And the worst part, I deserved every drop. Let me go back 30 minutes. I was at Lumiere, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, closing a $50 million deal with the Caldwell brothers. Everything was perfect: the reserved table overlooking Central Park, the right wine, my calculated smile. I was good at this. Very good. Manipulating people was practically my second language. That's when she appeared. Brown hair pulled back in a messy bun, some rebellious strands falling over her face, the black and white uniform a bit too loose. She wore no makeup. Or if she did, it was so subtle it made no difference. No jewelry, no artifice. Just real. Absurdly real in a place where everything was facade. "Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Dove and I'll be—" "We already ordered." I cut her off without looking at her, focused on the papers in front of me. "Just bring it." I felt the Caldwell brothers exchange uncomfortable glances, but I ignored them. Time is money, and I had neither to waste on empty pleasantries. She stood there for a moment. Then, in an absurdly calm voice, "Of course, excuse me." For the next hour she served, cleared plates, filled glasses. Efficient, silent, invisible, just how I preferred employees to be. Until Derek Caldwell, already on his 3rd bottle of wine, decided it would be fun to make inappropriate comments every time she approached. "Hey, sweetie, how about you forget that ugly uniform and—" "Derek," I interrupted, not out of chivalry, but because it was delaying the deal closing. "Focus." But the idiot insisted, and when she approached to serve the celebration champagne, he tried to touch her. What happened next was unexpected. She pulled away with impressive agility, the tray perfectly balanced in one hand. Her eyes met mine, not Derek's mine, and there was something in that look I couldn't decipher. Disappointment? Anger? Pity? "Are you finished?" Her voice was low, too controlled. "Yes, dear, you can go," I replied, signing the last document and reaching for my champagne glass. That's when she spoke, each word crystalline. "Actually, I think you should be the ones leaving." The Caldwell brothers laughed. I frowned. "Excuse me." "You heard me." She placed the tray on the table with enough force to make the glasses clink. I endured an hour of disrespect, of being treated like furniture, of hearing disgusting comments. But you know what's worse? You. She pointed at me. Sitting there in your expensive suit and your watch that probably costs more than a year of my rent, without moving a muscle, without saying a word, as if none of it mattered because you got what you wanted. My jaw locked. "Look here." "No." She picked up my champagne glass. "You're going to listen to me. Men like you go through life thinking the world exists to serve you, that people like me are disposable, that money buys the right to be an asshole." And then she threw it. The champagne hit me square on, cold and shocking. The entire restaurant stopped. Waiters froze. Customers turned. The manager came running, red with shame and fury. "Miss Evans, you're fired. Mr. Thorne, please accept our most—" "It's fine," I heard my own voice say, surprisingly calm. I wiped my face with the napkin, eyes fixed on her. "Let her go." Dove stared at me for one more second, those brown eyes full of fire and something that looked like sadness, before taking off her apron, throwing it on the table and walking out of the restaurant with her head held high. And me? I stood there, paralyzed, while something strange happened in my chest. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. By the third night, I was standing in my penthouse at 3 a.m., whiskey in hand, staring at the city lights like they held some answer I desperately needed. They didn't. Nothing did. Men like you don't deserve even the air you breathe. The words haunted me, played on repeat in my mind like a broken record. I'd replayed that moment 1,000 times. Her eyes, her voice, the way she'd looked at me with such raw disappointment. Not fear, not admiration. Disappointment. When was the last time someone had been disappointed in me? When was the last time someone had expected better? My phone buzzed. Another email from my assistant, marked urgent. I ignored it. Everything was urgent in my world, which meant nothing really was. I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked at myself in the mirror, really looked. What did she see? A man in an expensive suit? A coward who sat silent while someone was harassed? A hollow shell who'd traded his humanity for a corner office? The reflection didn't answer, but I already knew. Sir, the Caldwell brothers are threatening to pull out of the deal. Jennifer, my assistant, stood in my office doorway the next morning, tablet in hand, her expression concerned. The woman had worked for me for 5 years and had probably never seen me in the same shirt 2 days in a row. Today, I was wearing yesterday's rumpled Oxford. Let them. She blinked. I'm sorry? Let them. I repeated, not looking up from my computer screen. I was on my 7th search variation. Dove Evans, New York waitress, had yielded nothing. Dove Manhattan server, same. Lumiere restaurant staff. The restaurant's website was conveniently vague. Sir, that's $50 million. I'm aware of the amount, Jennifer. I finally looked at her. Tell them if they want to work with men who harass staff, they can find another company. We're done. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Are you feeling all right? No. It was the most honest thing I'd said in weeks. But I will be. Cancel my meetings for today. All of them? All of them. After she left, surely convinced I'd had a breakdown, I grabbed my coat. I had a waitress to find. Lumiere's manager, Pierre, was less than thrilled to see me. Monsieur Thorne. His smile was tight, professional. How unexpected. I trust you received our gift basket as an apology for the incident? I need to speak with Dove Evans. His expression shuddered. I'm afraid that's impossible. Miss Evans no longer works here. I know that. I need her contact information. We don't give out employee information. I pulled out my checkbook. How much? Pierre's face reddened. Monsieur, I cannot be bought. Everyone can be bought. I just haven't found your price yet. I paused, then did something that felt foreign on my tongue. Please, I need to apologize to her. Something in my voice must have convinced him, because his expression softened slightly. Even if I wanted to help, I don't have much. She worked here only 2 months. Paid in cash, no direct deposit. The address on file is a P.O. box. He hesitated. She mentioned once that she was saving for art school. Worked 3 jobs to make rent. 3 jobs, while I spent $3,000 on a suit without blinking. Did she say where else she worked? No, but... Pierre glanced around, then leaned in. She used to sketch on her breaks. Beautiful drawings. She left one behind. He disappeared into the back, returning with a paper napkin. On it, drawn in blue pen, was a remarkably detailed sketch of the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. May I keep this? He nodded. Monsieur Thorne, that girl has more dignity in her little finger than most people have in their entire body. Whatever you're planning, don't waste her time unless you mean it. I looked down at the sketch. The detail was incredible. You could see the individual cables, the way the light hit the water. She'd drawn this on a break between serving entitled assholes like me. I mean it, I said quietly. I just hoped I'd figure out what it was before I found her. The next week was the strangest of my life. I, Maxwell Thorne, CEO of a Fortune 500 company, spent my evenings walking through Brooklyn, looking for a woman whose last name I barely knew. I checked diners, coffee shops, bars, anywhere that might hire a waitress with brown eyes and too much pride to take disrespect. My board thought I was losing it. Maybe I was. On the 8th night, I found myself at a small diner in Park Slope called Rosie's. It was nothing special. Red vinyl booths, checkered floors, the smell of coffee and bacon grease. Through the window, I could see the late shift winding down. And there she was, Dove. Hair still in that messy bun, wearing a pink uniform this time, refilling coffee for an elderly couple with the same efficient grace she'd had at Lumiere. But there was something different. She was smiling. Actually smiling. This warm, genuine thing that made her entire face light up. I'd never seen her smile before. I'd never given her a reason to. My hand was on the door handle when doubt froze me. What was I doing? What would I even say? Sorry I was complicit in your harassment. Want to grab coffee? I watched her laugh at something the old man said, watched her squeeze the woman's hand with such genuine affection. This was her real life, the one where entitled billionaires didn't exist. Did I have any right to walk into it? My phone buzzed. Another emergency. Another deal. Another thing that used to matter. I silenced it and pushed open the door. The bell chimed. Dove looked up, and the smile died on her face. "You've got to be kidding me," she said. My rehearsed speech evaporated. "I'd like a coffee, please." Her eyes narrowed. "We're closed. The sign says open until midnight. It's 11:47. "We're closed," she repeated, her voice ice. The elderly couple glanced between us, confused. I saw Dove's jaw tighten, saw her struggle with something, probably the urge to throw more liquid at me. "One coffee," I said quietly, "and 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You're asking for a lot more than that, and we both know it." But she grabbed a mug, poured coffee with sharp, angry movements, and slammed it on the counter. 5 minutes. Clock's ticking. I sat. The coffee was terrible. I drank it anyway. I came to apologize. "Congratulations. You apologized. 4 minutes left." This was going well. I was a coward that night. Worse than a coward. I sat there and let it happen because closing that deal mattered more than doing the right thing. The words tumbled out, unpracticed, raw. "You were right. About all of it. About me." She was quiet for a long moment, wiping down the counter with mechanical precision. "Why are you here, Maxwell?" Hearing my name in her voice did something strange to my chest. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Her hand stilled. She looked up, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. "You don't even know me." "No," I admitted, "but I'd like to. If you'd let me." "Let you what? Ease your guilty conscience. Add redeemed by poor girl to your billionaire redemption arc." Her voice was sharp, but I heard the hurt underneath. "I'm not a project, Maxwell. I know that." "Do you?" She leaned across the counter, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "Because men like you don't change. You'll feel bad for a week, maybe 2, then you'll go back to your penthouse and your deals and stepping on people like me. So do us both a favor and finish your terrible coffee and leave." She was right. Everything she said, she was right. But she was also still standing there, still talking to me, still hoping I'd prove her wrong. "Give me a chance," I said. "One chance to show you you're wrong about me. Or right. Whichever it is, you deserve to know." "Why would I do that?" "Because," I met her eyes, "I think you're curious too." The clock on the wall ticked to midnight. My 5 minutes were up. Dove crossed her arms, studied me like I was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. Finally, she grabbed a napkin and scribbled something on it. "Saturday, 2 p.m. Brooklyn Museum. Don't be late. Don't bring your wallet, and don't expect anything." She shoved the napkin across the counter. And Maxwell? If you waste my time, I'll do a lot worse than throw champagne at you. I looked down at the napkin, her phone number, written in that same sure hand that had drawn the Brooklyn Bridge. I wouldn't dream of it, I said. As I left, I caught her reflection in the window. She was smiling again. This time, maybe, because of me. I arrived at the Brooklyn Museum at 1:30 p.m. Not 1:55, not fashionably late. 1:30. I, Maxwell Thorne, who made billion-dollar investors wait in lobbies, stood on the museum steps half an hour early like a nervous teenager. I'd changed clothes 4 times, left my Rolex at home, took the subway instead of my driver. The subway. I'd forgotten how many people existed outside of boardrooms and black cars. At 1:58, I saw her coming up the street. Worn jeans, an oversized cardigan the color of rust, canvas sneakers that had seen better days. Hair down this time, falling in waves past her shoulders. No makeup, except maybe something on her lips. She carried a canvas tote bag covered in paint stains. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "You're early," she said, stopping a careful distance away. Didn't want to risk being late. Smart. She looked me over, taking in my jeans, probably the most expensive denim she'd ever seen, even though I'd tried to dress down. "You actually left the suit at home. I'm shocked." "You said no wallet. I'm a good listener when properly motivated." "Are you?" She tilted her head. "We'll see. Come on." She walked past me into the museum, and I followed, feeling oddly like I was the one being led into unfamiliar territory, which I suppose I was. "You've never been here before, have you?" Dove asked as we walked through the Egyptian galleries. "Is it that obvious? You keep looking around like you're afraid you'll break something." She stopped in front of a carved stone relief. "This is from 1479 BC. It's survived wars, tomb raiders, and thousands of years. I think it can handle you." I looked at the artifact, then at her. "You come here often?" "Every Saturday when I'm not working. It's free if you're a New York resident." "Well," suggested donation, but they can't turn you away if you can't pay." She moved to the next piece. "I used to bring my sketchbook, but they asked me to stop. Apparently I was too focused and making other visitors uncomfortable." There was no bitterness in her voice, just a statement of fact. "What did you draw?" "Everything. The way light hits the sculptures, the expressions on ancient faces, the other visitors." She glanced at me. "The stories people don't see." We walked in silence through 3 more galleries. I watched her more than the art, the way she leaned in close to read every placard, how her fingers twitched like she wanted to trace the brushstrokes on paintings, the small sounds of appreciation she made when something moved her. In the American art wing, she stopped so abruptly I nearly ran into her. "This," she whispered, staring at a painting of a woman by a window. "This is why I'm here." The painting was beautiful, soft light, careful detail, but I didn't understand. "Why?" I asked. "Because someone saw her, really saw her. Not just her face, but the way she existed in that moment. The quiet, the solitude, the light." Dove's voice was thick with emotion. "That's what I want to do, make people feel seen. With your art. With my art." She turned to me, and her walls were down just enough that I could see the dream burning behind her eyes. "I got accepted to Pratt Institute. Full scholarship. It took me 3 tries, but I got in." "That's incredible. When do you start?" The light dimmed. "I don't. The scholarship covers tuition, not living expenses, not supplies, not the fact that I'd have to quit at least 2 of my 3 jobs to handle the course load." She shrugged, but I saw the pain. "It's fine. The acceptance letter is framed in my apartment. That's enough." It wasn't enough. Not even close. "Dove, don't." She held up a hand. "I can see your billionaire brain working. Whatever you're thinking, a check, a loan, a let me help. Don't. I didn't tell you for that." Why did you tell me? She was quiet for a long moment, studying the painting again. I don't know. Maybe because you asked. Maybe because for the first time in a week, I talked about it without someone telling me to be realistic or just get a better job. She looked at me. You're easy to talk to when you're not being an entitled asshole. I'm working on that. Are you? The challenge was back in her voice. Tell me something, Maxwell. Why are you really here? And don't say it's because you can't stop thinking about me. I want the truth. I'd spent days preparing for this question. Had rehearsed answers that would make me sound noble, redeemed. But standing there, with her eyes cutting through every defense I had, only the truth would do. Because you made me feel something, I admitted. That night at Lumiere, for 10 seconds, I wasn't Maxwell Thorne, CEO. I wasn't a net worth or a reputation. I was just a man who'd failed to be decent, and it terrified me, because I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt anything real. I took a breath. You threw champagne in my face, called me out in front of everyone, and walked away like I wasn't worth another second of your time. And you were right. I wasn't. But you think you are now? No. But I'd like to earn the chance to try to be. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity. People flowed around us admiring art, but all I could see was her. I have 30 minutes before my shift at the coffee shop on Amsterdam, she finally said. There's a hot dog cart outside. My treat. Your treat? You came without your wallet, remember? Consider it a test. A small smile played at her lips. Let's see how the billionaire handles a $2 lunch. We sat on the museum steps, hot dogs in hand, watching the city move. This is the best hot dog I've ever had, I said. You're lying. I'm really not. And I wasn't. Maybe it was the company. Maybe it was the fact that I was eating street food for the first time in a decade. Maybe it was the way Dove laughed when mustard dripped on my expensive jeans. You have to eat them faster, she demonstrated, taking a huge bite. That's the trick. I'm discovering I don't know many tricks outside a boardroom. That's sad. It is, I agreed. She finished her hot dog and wiped her hands on a napkin, her expression turning serious. Maxwell, I need you to understand something. I'm not your redemption arc. I'm not going to fix you or save you or teach you to be human again. That's your job. I know. And I don't forgive easy. What happened at Lumiere? I've been dealing with that my whole life. Men who think service workers are beneath them, who think they can say or do whatever they want because they have money. You sat there and let it happen, and that hurt worse than any comment Derek Caldwell could have made. Each word was a knife, deserved and sharp. But, she continued, her voice softening slightly, you came looking for me. You're here, eating a hot dog on museum steps instead of closing deals. You left your wallet at home. She met my eyes. So, I'm going to give you something I don't give many people, a second chance. Not because I think you've changed, but because I think you might want to. And that's a start. What does a second chance look like? It looks like this. Real conversations. Real places. You want to know me? Then show up. Not as Maxwell Thorne, CEO, just as Maxwell. She stood, brushing crumbs off her jeans. I work at Rosie's Tuesday and Thursday nights, the coffee shop on Amsterdam on Saturdays, and I have Mondays off. You figure out the rest. She started down the steps, then turned back. And Maxwell? Next time, bring your wallet. You're buying. I watched her disappear into the Brooklyn afternoon, and for the second time in 2 weeks, I felt alive. Terrified, uncertain, completely out of my depth, but alive. My phone buzzed. 17 missed calls, a dozen emails marked urgent. I silenced it and sat on those museum steps until the sun started to set, thinking about second chances and the woman brave enough to offer one. Tuesday night, 9 p.m. I walked into Rosie's diner wearing jeans and a plain black sweater, carrying a book I'd actually read instead of skimmed for business intel. The bell chimed. Dove looked up from wiping down a booth, and something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe pleasure, maybe just resignation. "Didn't think you'd show," she said. "I said I would." People say a lot of things. She tossed the rag into a bucket. "Sit anywhere. We're dead tonight." The diner was empty except for a man nursing coffee at the counter. I slid into the booth Dove had been cleaning, and she appeared with a menu I didn't need. "What can I get you?" "What do you recommend?" "The meatloaf is decent. Pie is better. Coffee is terrible but free refills." She pulled out her order pad, all business. "But you're not really here for the food, are you?" "I'm here because you said to show up." "And you always do what you're told now?" "When it matters." "Yes." She studied me, pen hovering over paper. "Meatloaf and apple pie. Coffee. I'll be back." I watched her work for the next hour. The way she moved through the space like she owned it, refilling the lone customer's coffee without being asked, humming something under her breath while she restocked napkins. She was beautiful in motion, efficient, graceful, completely herself. When she finally brought my food, I asked, "When's your break?" "Who says I get one?" "Labor laws. Rich people and their laws." But she glanced at the clock. 20 minutes. Why?" "I want to ask you something." She rolled her eyes but nodded. 20 minutes. Your pie better be gone by then." It was the best terrible diner food I'd ever eaten. Dove's break consisted of sitting across from me in the booth with a mug of that terrible coffee, her shoes kicked off under the table, exhaustion creeping into the edges of her expression. "How many hours today?" I asked. "What are you, my mom?" "Dove," she sighed. 14. Coffee shop opened at 6, ended at 2. Here from 5 to close. "That's necessary." She cut me off. "Some of us don't have trust funds and stock portfolios. We work or we starve. That's the deal." "It's a terrible deal." "Yeah, well." She wrapped her hands around the mug. "You didn't ask me here to discuss economic inequality. What do you want to know?" "Everything," I almost said. But I started smaller. "Why Dove?" She blinked. "What?" "Your name. It's unusual." For a moment I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she smiled, something sad and sweet. "My mom's favorite book was Breakfast at Tiffany's. You know the cat? The one with no name that Holly calls Cat? She always said that was sad, giving love to something without naming it properly. So when I was born, she named me after what she thought was the most beautiful, free thing in the world. A dove." She looked into her coffee. "She died when I was 12. Breast cancer. Fast and cruel. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't pay medical bills or fill the hole they leave behind." She took a sip. "My dad did his best, but he worked construction. Long hours, hard labor. Had a heart attack 3 years ago, also fast, also cruel." I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. She didn't pull away. "So yeah," she continued, her voice thick. "I work 3 jobs and sleep 4 hours a night and can't afford art school because that's life. And before you offer to fix it, don't. I'm not your charity case." "You're not a charity case. You're—" I struggled for words. "You're someone who deserves better than what you've been dealt. We all deserve better than what we're dealt, but we don't always get it." She finally pulled her hand back, and I felt the loss immediately. "Your turn. Tell me something real. Not a rehearsed I'm a changed man speech. Something that scares you." The question caught me off guard. When was the last time someone asked what scared me? "I'm scared," I said slowly. "That this is the best I'll ever be. That underneath the money and the power, I'm just empty. That you'll see that and realize you were wrong to give me a second chance." Dove was quiet, her brown eyes searching mine. "You know what scares me?" she asked. "That you'll prove me right. That in a week or a month, you'll get bored of playing poor and go back to your penthouse, and this," she gestured between us, "will have been just an interesting story you tell at cocktail parties. The time I dated a waitress. I would never. Wouldn't you? The challenge was back. You don't know what it's like to be me, Maxwell. To be invisible until someone needs something. To work yourself to exhaustion and still not have enough. To watch people like you throw away more money on a single meal than I make in a month. Her voice cracked. So yeah, I'm terrified. Because I'm starting to like you, and that's the most dangerous thing I could do. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. I'm starting to like you too, I admitted. And it terrifies me because I don't know how to do this. Any of this. I don't know how to be real with someone, how to show up without an agenda, how to... I stopped. How to be worthy of you. Then learn. She leaned forward. You want this? You want me? Then do the work. Show up. Not just to the diner or the coffee shop, but to the hard parts, the messy parts, the parts where I'm tired and angry and don't have pretty words. She stood, sliding her feet back into her shoes. My break's over. Dove, wait. She paused. Thursday, I said. I'll be here Thursday. I work until midnight. Then I'll be here until midnight. Something softened in her expression. You're going to sit in this diner for 3 hours just to see me for 20 minutes? Yes. That's insane. Probably. I smiled. But you're worth it. She shook her head, but I caught the smile she tried to hide. You're impossible. I'm learning from the best. I stayed until she locked up at midnight, nursed 3 cups of terrible coffee and read my book, and watched her move through her world with such strength it humbled me. When the last customer left and she flipped the sign to closed, she came to my booth. You're still here. I said I would be. Most people say things they don't mean. I'm not most people. No, she agreed softly. You're really not. She slid into the booth across from me, and for a moment, we just sat there. Tired, honest, real. Walk me home? She asked. Always. Outside, the New York night wrapped around us. She lived 6 blocks away in a building that had seen better decades. We walked in comfortable silence until we reached her door. This is me, she said, gesturing to the weathered entrance. Can I see you Monday? Your day off? Maxwell, just a few hours, anywhere you want to go, anything you want to do. She bit her lip, considering. Finally, there's a street fair in Union Square. I go every year. It's loud and crowded and chaotic. Sounds perfect. Noon. Don't be late. She started up the steps, then turned back. And Maxwell, thank you for showing up. For staying. For... She trailed off. Just thank you. She disappeared inside before I could respond. I walked home, actually walked, all 60 blocks to my penthouse, thinking about a woman who worked 3 jobs and still found time to dream, who'd lost everything but hadn't lost herself, who was teaching me what it meant to be human again. My phone had 32 missed calls. I didn't care about a single one. Union Square was chaos incarnate. Vendors shouted prices over each other. Musicians competed for acoustic space, the smell of fried everything mixed with incense and fresh flowers. Bodies pressed together in the crowd, moving like a living organism through the narrow pathways between stalls. I loved it. Dove appeared at noon exactly, wearing a sundress the color of sunflowers and that same pair of worn canvas shoes. Her hair was down, wild in the breeze, and she wore actual joy on her face. You came, she said, slightly breathless from rushing. Did you doubt me? Maybe a little. She grabbed my hand without thinking, pulling me into the crowd. Come on, there's a vendor who sells these amazing empanadas, and if we don't get there early, they sell out. Her hand in mine felt like the most natural thing in the world. We spent 2 hours wandering through organized chaos. Dove haggled with vendors in broken Spanish, laughed at street performers, stopped at every art booth to study pieces she'd never be able to afford. I watched her more than anything else, memorizing the way she tilted her head when considering a painting, how she bit her lip when doing math in her head to see if she could justify a $5 print. "You're not looking at anything," she said, catching me staring. "I'm looking at the most interesting thing here." She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed pink. "Smooth, Thorn. Very smooth." At the empanada stand, she ordered in rapid-fire Spanish, then turned to me. "Beef or chicken? Whatever you're having." "Wrong answer. You need to have an opinion." She ordered both anyway, paying before I could even reach for my wallet. "My treat, remember?" "Dove, come on." "Nope." She handed me a warm empanada wrapped in napkin. "You paid for yourself last time with the hot dog. Fair is fair." The empanada was incredible. I told her so. "Everything tastes better when you're actually living," she said, taking a massive bite. "That's the secret." We found a spot on the grass, away from the main crowd. Dove kicked off her shoes and stretched out, face turned to the sun like a cat seeking warmth. "This is my favorite day of the year," she said. "Every year, no matter what's happening, I come here, rain or shine. It's my tradition." "Why?" "Because it reminds me that beauty doesn't have to be expensive, that art and music and joy exist everywhere if you're willing to look." She turned her head to face me. "My mom used to bring me here when I was little, before she got sick. We'd spend the whole day buying nothing, experiencing everything. She'd say, 'Dove, never forget. The best things in life are the ones you feel, not the ones you buy.'" She sounds like she was amazing. She was. Dove's voice was thick with memory. She painted. Nothing professional, just for herself. Watercolors mostly. After she died, my dad boxed everything up. Said it hurt too much to see. I found them when I was 16 going through the attic. Every single one was of me. Me sleeping, me playing, me laughing. She'd been documenting love the whole time. I didn't know what to say to that. What words could possibly be enough? "Is that why you want to create?" I asked finally. "To document love? To document life, love, pain, truth." She sat up, wrapping her arms around her knees. "I want to make people feel something real, even if it's uncomfortable. Especially if it's uncomfortable, because that's when we're most alive." "Like throwing champagne in someone's face?" She laughed, the sound bright and unexpected. "Exactly like that. You felt something that night, didn't you?" "I felt everything," I admitted. "For the first time in years." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Can I tell you something scary?" "Always." "I'm starting to trust you, and that terrifies me more than anything." She picked at the grass. "Because I've seen what happens when you give people power over you, when you let them in. My dad, after Mom died, he was never the same. It's like she took half of him with her. He spent 12 years as half a person, and then his heart gave out. Sometimes I think he died of a broken heart, not a heart attack. Dove, I swore I'd never let anyone have that kind of power over me. That I'd stay safe, stay independent, stay alone." She finally looked at me, and her eyes were shining. "But you make me want to break that promise. And I don't know if that's brave or stupid." I reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She leaned into the touch. "Maybe it's both," I said. "Maybe the bravest things we do are also the stupidest." "Is that your way of saying you're scared too?" "Terrified." I cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "I've built empires, Dove. Negotiated billion-dollar deals, stared down boardrooms full of sharks. But sitting here with you, this is the scariest thing I've ever done." "Why?" "Because I could lose you, and I don't think I'd survive it." The words hung between us, honest and raw. Around us, the fair continued. Music, laughter, life. But in our little bubble of grass, there was only truth. "You can't lose what you don't have," she whispered. "Don't I?" She leaned forward, and for a moment I thought she might kiss me. But instead, she pressed her forehead to mine, her breath warm against my lips. "Not yet," she said softly. "But soon." We stayed until sunset, watching the fair wind down. Dove bought a small watercolor from a street artist, a painting of the city at dusk, all purples and golds. It cost $20. I saw her count the bills twice before handing them over. "It's beautiful," I said as we walked toward the subway. "It's impractical," she countered, clutching the wrapped canvas. "But sometimes beautiful things are worth being impractical for." She looked at me when she said it, and I understood. At the subway entrance, she stopped. "I had fun today. Real fun. Thank you. When can I see you again?" "Maxwell, I know, you're busy. 3 jobs, no time. But give me something. Lunch, coffee, a 10-minute walk." She considered, chewing her lip in that way I'd come to recognize as deep thought. "My birthday is Friday. I'll be 26, officially old and boring." "Let me take you to dinner. I work until 9. Then let me take you to dinner at 9:30. Anywhere you want. My treat this time." "Anywhere? Anywhere." A slow smile spread across her face. "There's this taco truck in Queens. Best al pastor in the city. It's a 40-minute subway ride, and there's nowhere to sit except the curb." God, I was falling for her. "Perfect," I said. 9:30, Friday, the taco truck in Queens. "You don't even know which one. Then text me the address." "I'll find it." She shook her head, amused and maybe a little charmed. "You're really doing this, aren't you? The whole changed man thing." "I'm trying. I know." She stood on her toes and kissed my cheek, quick and soft. "That's what scares me." Then she was gone, disappearing down into the subway, leaving me standing on the street with the ghost of her lips on my skin and the certainty that I was in way over my head. I pulled out my phone. 47 missed calls. A text from my CFO. "Emergency board meeting. Where are you?" I typed back, "Living." Then I turned off my phone and walked home through the city I was finally learning to see, thinking about a woman in a sundress who was teaching me that the best things in life really were the ones you felt, not the ones you bought, and wondering if I was brave enough or stupid enough to fall completely. Maybe both. Definitely both. Friday arrived wrapped in rain and doubt. I stood outside Rosie's diner at 9:15 p.m., soaked to the bone because I'd forgotten an umbrella, holding a small wrapped box that had taken me 3 days to find. Inside was a set of professional-grade watercolor pencils, not the cheap ones, but not so expensive she'd refuse them either. The kind an art student at Pratt would need, the kind her mother might have used. Through the window, I watched Dove move through the end of her shift. Even exhausted, even on her birthday spent serving other people, she smiled at customers, refilled coffee, existed with grace. At 9:27, she emerged, pulling a jacket over her uniform. She saw me and stopped. "You're soaked." "It's raining." "I can see that." She stepped closer, and I could see the concern in her eyes. "How long have you been standing here?" "Not long." 2 hours, but who was counting? She shook her head, but she was smiling. "You're insane." "You know that, right?" "So I've been told." I offered my arm. "Shall we? I believe I owe you birthday tacos." The taco truck was in Woodside, Queens, tucked between a laundromat and a bodega that had seen better decades. The line was 10 people deep despite the rain, and the smell coming from inside was incredible. "This is it," Dove said, her face lighting up. "El Corazon, the heart, best al pastor you'll ever have." We waited in line, sharing an umbrella I'd bought from a street vendor for $15, highway robbery, but worth it to be close to her. When we finally ordered, Dove spoke rapid Spanish to the woman running the truck, who laughed and responded in kind before looking at me with amused skepticism. "What did you say?" I asked as we found a relatively dry spot under an awning. "I told her you were my boyfriend and it was my birthday." She unwrapped her taco. "She asked if you were rich." I said disgustingly so. "She asked why you were here eating tacos in the rain." I said I was still figuring that out. "And what did she say?" "That any man willing to stand in the rain in Queens for a woman must be either in love or insane." She took a bite, her eyes closing in pleasure. "Possibly both." I tried my taco. It was transcendent. You're right, I said. This is the best thing I've ever eaten. Everything tastes better when it's real. She watched me, something unreadable in her expression. You've been different this week. Distant. Your assistant called me. I nearly choked. Jennifer called you? Twice. Wanted to know if you were having a breakdown, if I was holding you hostage, if you needed an intervention. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I told her you were fine. But are you, Maxwell? Because you can't just abandon your entire life for me. That's not sustainable. My life was abandoning me long before I met you. I was just too busy to notice. That's poetic, but it's not an answer. I set down my taco, rain dripping off the awning above us, the city alive and indifferent around us. 3 weeks ago, I fired my CFO for suggesting we outsource manufacturing to save costs. I told him we'd rather make less profit than put people out of work. My board thought I'd lost my mind. I looked at her. 2 weeks ago, I implemented a new minimum wage across all Thorne industries, $15 above the federal requirement. Cost the company millions. Stock dropped. I didn't care. Maxwell. Last week I started a scholarship program. Full ride to Pratt Institute for 1 student per year. All expenses covered. Tuition, supplies, living costs, everything. I pulled out the small wrapped box. The first recipient gets notified next week. Her name is Dove Evans. The taco fell from her hand. What did you do? Her voice was barely a whisper. I created a scholarship in my mother's name, something she would have wanted. The selection committee chose you based on your portfolio and application. They don't know your... I gestured between us. This. You can't do that. She was shaking. Maxwell, you can't just fix my life because you feel guilty, or because you want to sleep with me, or... I did it because you deserve it, because your mother would have wanted you to have it, because the world needs your art more than it needs another billionaire. No, she stepped back. No, you don't get to play God with my life. You don't get to swoop in with your money and your connections and just fix things. I'm not trying to fix things. I'm trying to help. It's the same thing, her voice cracked. Don't you see? This is exactly what I was afraid of, that you'd decide I was a project, a broken thing that needed your money to be whole. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Tears mixed with rain on her face. I told you I didn't want to be your charity case. I told you I needed to do this myself. And the first chance you get, you throw money at the problem because that's all you know how to do. The words hit like physical blows. Dove, please. I need to think. She was already backing away. I need space. It's your birthday. Please, just let me... Happy birthday to me, right? The poor waitress who got her dreams bought by a billionaire with a savior complex. She turned and started walking. Don't follow me, Maxwell, please. Just don't. I watched her disappear into the rain, into the Queen's night, taking my heart with her. The woman from the taco truck appeared beside me, pressing another taco into my hand. Eat, she said in heavily accented English. Love is complicated. Food is simple. I sat on the curb, rain soaking through my jeans, eating a taco that tasted like ashes, and wondered how I'd managed to ruin everything while trying to make it right. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m. my phone buzzed. A text from Dove. I'm sorry for running. Can we talk tomorrow? Actually tomorrow, not work tomorrow. I typed back immediately. Whenever you're ready, wherever you want. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, Prospect Park. The boathouse, 2 p.m. I'll be there. Another pause. Then, thank you for the scholarship, for everything. I'm just scared. Me too, I sent back. Me too. I lay in my penthouse bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the difference between fixing someone and supporting them, between saving them and standing beside them, between buying love and earning it. I'd spent my whole life solving problems with money. But Dove wasn't a problem to be solved. She was a person to be known, to be respected, to be loved for exactly who she was, struggles and strength and all. I'd been so focused on giving her what I thought she needed that I'd forgotten to ask what she wanted. Outside my window, the city glittered with a million stories I'd never bothered to hear. Inside my chest, my heart beat with a feeling I barely recognized. Hope, terror, love. All three, tangled together, impossible to separate. Tomorrow, I'd go to Prospect Park. I'd listen. I'd apologize. I'd do whatever it took to make this right. Not because I wanted to fix her, but because I wanted to deserve her. The rain continued to fall, washing the city clean, and I closed my eyes and prayed that tomorrow would bring clarity. For both of us. Because I was finally understanding what scared me most. Not losing her, but never really having her at all. I arrived at the Prospect Park boathouse at 1:30 p.m., carrying 2 coffees and a knot of anxiety in my chest that no amount of deep breathing could untangle. The boathouse sat at the edge of the lake, all weathered wood and quiet dignity. Ducks glided across the water. Families strolled past. The world continued, indifferent to the fact that mine might be ending. At exactly 2 p.m. I saw her. She wore jeans and an old NYU sweatshirt that was probably from a thrift store, her hair in a ponytail, no makeup. She looked tired, beautiful, real. "Hi," she said, stopping a careful distance away. "Hi." I offered her a coffee. "Vanilla latte. 2 pumps. Extra foam. I asked your coworker at the coffee shop." She took it, surprise flickering across her face. "You remembered." "I remember everything about you." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. 2 people who'd shared so much suddenly unsure how to exist in the same space. "Walk with me?" she asked. We circled the lake in silence for 5 minutes. I let her set the pace, the rhythm, the moment. Finally, she spoke. "I was up all night thinking about what you did. The scholarship." She took a sip of coffee. "And I realized something. I was angry at you for all the wrong reasons. Dove, let me finish." She stopped walking, turning to face me. "I was angry because you were right, because I do need help, because I've been drowning for so long that I forgot what it feels like to have someone throw me a rope, and that terrified me. You don't need to explain." "Yes, I do." Her eyes were fierce. "My whole life I've had to be strong. After Mom died, I took care of Dad. After he died, I took care of myself. I learned that asking for help meant being weak, that accepting charity meant giving up control, that if I couldn't do it alone, I didn't deserve it. That's not true. I know." She smiled sadly. "But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are 2 different things. When you told me about the scholarship, my first thought wasn't gratitude. It was shame, like I'd failed by letting you see how much I was struggling. The confession broke something open in my chest. "I'm sorry," I said. "I should have talked to you first. Should have asked if it was what you wanted instead of assuming. I was so focused on fixing the problem that I forgot about the person." "Yeah, you were." She stepped closer. "But you know what? I was wrong too. I've been so determined to prove I don't need anyone that I forgot it's okay to want someone, to let them in, to accept help without it meaning I'm weak. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Then let me be strong enough to say thank you." She took my hand. "Thank you for seeing me, for caring, for creating something beautiful in your mother's name that will help people like me. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I made you feel like you'd done something wrong when you'd actually done something incredible. I did it for you. I know, and that scared me, because it meant you really saw me. Not the waitress, not the poor girl. Me, Dove. The person who dreams too big and works too hard and is terrified of letting anyone close enough to hurt her." She squeezed my hand. "But I'm done being scared. Or at least, I'm done letting fear make my decisions." The world around us faded until there was only her face, her eyes, her truth. "What does that mean?" I asked, barely breathing. It means I'm accepting the scholarship. Not because you created it, but because I earned it. Because my mother would want me to. Because it's okay to let someone help me reach my dreams. And us? She smiled, soft and real. It means I want there to be an us. If you're still interested in a waitress with trust issues and a tendency to throw drinks at people. Former waitress, I corrected. Art student now. Not until September. I'm working through summer to save money. She tilted her head. You going to be around? I'll be wherever you are. That's a big promise. I'm good at keeping promises. I'm learning anyway. She laughed, and the sound filled something hollow in my chest. You're really trying, aren't you? The whole changed man thing. Because of you. No. She touched my face, her palm warm against my cheek. For yourself. I might have been the catalyst, but the change, that's all you. That's the man you chose to become. And then she kissed me. Not the careful peck on the cheek from before, but a real kiss. Soft and sweet and full of promise. Her lips tasted like vanilla latte and hope. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer. The world could have ended, and I wouldn't have noticed. When we finally pulled apart, she was smiling. I've wanted to do that since the museum, she admitted. You should have. I was making you work for it. She rested her forehead against mine. Was it worth the wait? Every second. We stood there, wrapped in each other, as the world moved around us. Eventually, we started walking again, hands intertwined, comfortable in the silence. So what now? I asked. Now we figure it out. Together. She leaned into me. I start at Pratt in September. You have a company to run. We both have lives that don't magically align because we kissed by a lake. But we'll make it work. We'll try. She stopped at a bench, pulling me down beside her. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't change who you are to be with me. Don't abandon your work or your responsibilities. I fell for Maxwell Thorne, CEO and complicated billionaire and all. Not a version of you pretending to be someone else. I'm not pretending. This is me. Maybe for the first time. Then keep being you, the evolved you, the one who shows up and listens and eats hot dogs on museum steps, but also the one who runs a company and makes hard decisions and changes industries. That's the man I want. Deal. I kissed her forehead. And you? Will you let me be part of your journey? Not controlling it, not funding every step, but just there, supporting you? Yes, she snuggled closer. But I'm paying for my own art supplies. Stubborn. You love it. I did. God, I did. We spent the rest of the afternoon at the park, talking about everything and nothing, making plans and breaking them, learning the rhythms of being together without the weight of uncertainty. As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Dove's phone rang. She answered, her expression shifting from relaxed to concerned to panicked in seconds. What? When? I'm on my way. She hung up, already standing. I have to go. My landlord. There's been a fire in my building. Not my apartment, but the whole building's being evacuated until they assess the damage. Let me come with you. Maxwell. Please. You said we're in this together. Let me be there. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Together. We rushed out of the park, heading toward Brooklyn, toward whatever came next. And as we ran, her hand in mine, I realized something. This was what love looked like. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts, but showing up. Being present. Running toward problems instead of writing checks to make them disappear. I was finally learning. And the woman beside me, fierce and strong and finally willing to let me in, was the best teacher I could have asked for. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The building was surrounded by fire trucks when we arrived, their lights painting the Brooklyn street in urgent red and blue. Residents stood on the sidewalk, clutching belongings, some crying, others just staring at their damaged home. Dove's apartment was on the 4th floor. The fire had started on the 2nd. "Ma'am, you can't go in," a firefighter said when Dove tried to push past. "My apartment, all my things. The building's structurally sound, but there's smoke and water damage throughout. We'll let residents back in tomorrow to collect essentials, but it's not habitable. You'll need to find somewhere else to stay." I watched Dove's face crumble and rebuild itself in seconds. That's what she did. Broke and rebuilt, over and over because she had to. "Okay," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling hands. "Thank you." She walked back to where I stood, and I could see her doing the math. Calculating which friend she could impose on, which couch she could crash on, how many shifts she'd need to pick up to afford a deposit on a new place. "Dove, I'll figure it out," she said quickly. "I always do. Maybe Rosa from the diner has space, or stay with me." She looked at me like I'd suggested skydiving without a parachute. "Maxwell, before you say no, hear me out." I took her hands. "I have a guest room, completely separate. You can stay as long as you need, no strings attached. And before you argue, ask yourself, if the situation was reversed and I needed help, would you offer?" She bit her lip. "That's not fair." "It's completely fair. You told me this afternoon that you're done letting pride make your decisions. So don't. Let me help. Not because you're weak or need saving, but because that's what people who care about each other do." For a long moment, she just looked at me, then quietly, "Just until I find a place. However long you need." My penthouse had never felt more enormous than when Dove walked through the door carrying everything she owned in a single duffel bag the firefighters had let her retrieve. "This is where you live?" She turned in a slow circle, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the minimalist furniture, the art I'd bought for investment rather than love. "It's like a hotel. I know, it's terrible. It's lonely," she said, meeting my eyes. "How do you live here without feeling like you're floating in space?" "I do feel like that. I always have." I led her to the guest room. "This is yours. Bathroom's through that door. Make yourself at home." She set down her bag, then turned to me. "Thank you for not making this weird, for not thinking this gives me some claim on you. Dove, I may be learning, but I'm not an idiot." I smiled. "Get some rest. We'll figure out tomorrow when it comes." I started to leave, but her voice stopped me. "Maxwell, will you stay? Just sit with me for a while. Today's been a lot." So I did. We sat on the edge of the guest bed, shoulders touching, not talking. Sometimes the most important thing you can offer someone is just your presence. I was finally learning that. 3 days became a week became 2. Dove looked for apartments between shifts, but everything was either too expensive or too far from her jobs or required deposits she couldn't afford yet. I didn't offer money. Instead, I offered company on apartment viewings, an ear when she needed to vent, and a presence that said, "You're not alone." Something shifted during those weeks. The guest room became her room. My coffee maker learned to make her vanilla lattes. We fell into a rhythm, her leaving for early shifts while I was still in bed, me waiting up with takeout from wherever she requested, late-night conversations on the couch about everything and nothing. We didn't have sex, barely even kissed. But we were building something deeper. Trust, partnership, home. On a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after the fire, I came home to find Dove in my living room with canvas, paints, and complete chaos. "What's this?" I asked, staring at the transformation of my sterile space. "Your apartment was sad," she said, not looking up from the painting she was working on. "I'm fixing it." "By destroying it?" "By making it yours." She finally turned, paint smudged on her cheek. "You've given me space to exist. Let me give you space to live." The painting she was working on took my breath away. It was the city at sunset, but not generic. It was specific. My view. My windows. My lonely penthouse transformed into something warm, It's beautiful, I whispered. It's home, she corrected. Or it could be, if you let it. I crossed to her, pulling her up from the floor, not caring about the paint. Dove Evans, are you asking to make my penthouse less sad? I'm asking if you want me to stay, not in the guest room, not temporarily, but really stay. Build a life here together. Paint your walls. Fill your space. Make this, she gestured around, into something real. Yes. I didn't hesitate. God, yes. But what about finding your own place? Maybe I already found it. She touched my face. Maybe home isn't a place. Maybe it's a person. And maybe I'm finally brave enough to admit that you're mine. I kissed her then, deep and sure and full of promise. She kissed back. And it felt like coming home to a place I'd never known existed. I love you, I said against her lips. I've loved you since you threw champagne in my face. I love you too. Even though you deserved that champagne. I absolutely did. We stood there, surrounded by paint and possibility, and built a future with our words and our hearts and our willingness to choose each other every day. 1 year later. The gallery opening was packed. I stood in the corner, champagne in hand, ironic that, watching Dove move through the crowd in a vintage dress she'd found at a thrift store and somehow made look like high fashion. Her art hung on every wall, paintings of the city, of people, of moments that made you feel something. The centerpiece was a triptych titled The Evolution of Home. The first panel, a lonely penthouse, all glass and emptiness. The second panel, the same space, but with paint cans, laughter, life seeping in. The third panel, 2 figures on a couch, surrounded by art and plants and evidence of existence, the city glowing behind them. Sold, a red dot sticker announced. I'd bought it anonymously through a dealer, and Dove still didn't know. There you are. She found me, slightly breathless, radiantly happy. Having fun hiding in corners? I'm not hiding. I'm admiring. The art or me? Both. I pulled her close. You did it. Your first show. We did it, she corrected. I couldn't have finished Pratt without you. The scholarship, yes, but also the late-night pep talks and the belief that I could actually do this. You would have done it anyway. I just got to watch. She kissed me, quick and sweet. Liar, but I love you anyway. Miss Evans? A curator approached. There's someone interested in commissioning a piece, large scale, for their office building. After she left to network, Jennifer appeared beside me. She's good for you, my assistant said. The company's thriving. You're actually sleeping, and you smile now. It's disturbing but nice. Thanks, Jennifer. Also, the board wants to know if you're serious about the artist residency program you proposed. Dead serious. If Dove could use help, others can too. Make it happen. She nodded, already typing notes. You've changed, sir, for the better. After she left, I looked around at the gallery full of people celebrating art, celebrating life, celebrating a woman who'd taught me what it meant to really live. My phone buzzed. A text from Dove. Meet me in the storage room. 5 minutes. I have news. When I found her, she was bouncing with excitement. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. She grabbed my hands. Maxwell Thorne. I got into a residency program in Paris. 3 months. Full funding. It's competitive and incredible and... That's amazing. And I told them I need to think about it because I have a life here, with you. And 3 months is a long time. I cupped her face. Dove, you have to go. But, no buts. This is your dream. Paris, art, the world. I'll be here when you get back. We'll make it work. That's what we do. You'd wait for me? I'd wait forever for you. But I'd rather visit on weekends and run up outrageous phone bills. I kissed her forehead. Go to Paris. Create. Live. I'll be cheering you on from here. I love you so much. I love you more. Not possible, she said, but she was crying happy tears. Later that night, we stood on my balcony, our balcony now, looking at the city that had brought us together, where a bitter CEO had met a fierce waitress, where champagne had flown and truth had been spoken, where two broken people had found each other and built something whole. "Think we'll make it?" she asked, leaning into me. "I know we will." "How can you be sure?" I turned her to face me, the city lights painting her face in gold. "Because I finally learned what matters. Not money or power or control, but showing up, trying, choosing love even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. Look at you getting all wise. I had a good teacher." She smiled, and in that smile was everything, our past, our present, our future. All the champagne and museums and taco trucks and late nights and early mornings, all the fear and trust and love we'd built from nothing. "Happy ending?" she asked. "Happy beginning," I corrected. "This is just the start." And as we stood there, two people who'd found home in each other, the city sprawled before us full of possibility, I knew one thing for certain. The best things in life really were the ones you felt, not the ones you bought. And Dove Evans had taught me how to feel everything. The end.